Drones and 3D printers really do go hand in hand, and in FPV especially, it's becoming the case that having a 3D printer on the bench is a necessity. Whether you're looking to build yourself a new drone from scratch, or you're looking to print yourself a new mount for your antennas or GoPro, having a 3D printer means you don't have to mess around waiting for other people to do it for you. Over the last few weeks, I've been taking a look at a number of printers from Creality. The first of these was the Hallet 1 Plus resin printer, and in the video I shared on that, I showed you not only how you can use it for traditional printing, but we took a look at some more interesting things such as flexible resins as well, and how you can use that like TPU on a traditional printer. Today, we're going to take a look at another one, and we're going to have a look at the Ender 3 S1. This is a traditional filament printer that I feel is probably about the perfect model for FPV because it has a direct drive extruder. It means you can print not only the normal PLA type filaments, but you can also print TPU as well. In this video, we're going to take a look at the printer itself. We're going to put it together. We're going to see how it performs. And then at the end, I'm going to share with you my thoughts. Now, just before we get into it, I just want to be clear that Creality did send me this printer for free. However, they have not had any input or control over this video's content. As always, my thoughts are entirely my own, and I will share with you exactly as I find it. Now, what we're going to do next is get the printer up on the bench. We'll get it unboxed and assembled, and then I will start to walk you through some of its features and capabilities. And then once I've had a bit more time on it, I will share with you my thoughts. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get this printer up on the bench. Now, as I've said, this is the S1. You can see it over there, which should really be the perfect overall model for sort of the general drone and FPV user. Now, I've had a look on Creality's website, and they say that you can get this printer together in about 6 steps. Let me just go to the overhead. It does come partly assembled already, as far as I understand it. I haven't actually opened the box yet, as you can see. And as far as I can tell, all you need to actually do is do some very basic assembly, and then you will be up and running. Now, looking in the box, we have this piece of foam, which covers everything nice and safely. We've got a leaflet that talks about the material guide and leveling tips. Okay, we'll take a look at that in a minute. We have this section in the middle, which appears to have some filament, which is nice. Oh, below that is our screen assembly. We have our extruder in there, which again is all fully assembled, ready to go. It just needs to go on. There is a bed leveling sensor on this printer as well, which is nice to see. There's the filament holder, the filament sensor, and some other bracketry there. So I'm just going to lift that out of the way and place that over there. Then we have a big bag of manuals and stuff here, and a box and some Allen keys and some tools, which is good. It's nice to see that. That's always a good thing. We look like we've then got this axis all assembled already, which is good. So we have our motors mounted. Belts are all done, so that comes out as one single piece. Just going to place that down there safely. And then it looks like everything else is in the bottom. There. Always a lot of packaging and stuff. And then our main bottom part of the printer is again all pre-assembled under there. So let me just get all of this out the way, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I've got everything out the box. Now, I'm not going to sit here and show you exactly how to put this printer together on video because Creality already have a video doing that. So what I'm going to do now is just do the assembly. I'll record it and speed it up so you guys can see, and I'll give you an idea of how long it took me at the end. But there is a great video on the Creality website which shows you the steps, so there's no point me replicating that. So what I'm going to do is get on with it, and I'll come back to you once it's done. Okay, so I'm now done. Now that took about 20 minutes with all of the messing around of me filming. I reckon you could do that in about 10 to 15. The video that Creality have is fantastic. It walks you through the whole process. The bit you need to know on the hardware is about 2 minutes long. So by the time you slow down to do some of the nuts and bolts up, I reckon 10 to 12 minutes you can have this printer assembled. That is one of the simplest printers I have ever put together. I have built a number of printers over the years, including a Mark III from scratch. And this was basically what I would call plug and play. Few bolts, couple of cable connections, we're ready to go. Just to note on a few things that I observed whilst putting it together, there is a cable here on the back. I'll put something up on the screen so you can see it, that needs to be plugged in, but I couldn't find the cable, and that was because it was hidden up in the frame here, and it's taped a bit further up. So I'm looking further down thinking, well, where is it? And it is there, and they do show it in the video, but just make sure you have the voltage set on the power supply properly. You do not want to get that wrong, because it will be magic smoke time when you power it up. Now the build is finished, it's a good time to go over the full specs of the Ender 3 S1 from Creality. This printer features a dual metal gear direct drive extruder, which has a pushing force of up to 80 Newton meters. The printer features a dual Z-axis with motors located at the bottom. It has rubber wheels rather than bearings that slide up and down the rails which make up part of the frame. There's metal gearing as well as a rubber tensioning belt at the top, helping ensure that you're getting drive force at the bottom and the top of the screws. The printer is fitted with what Creality call a CR touch sensor, allowing it to have automatic bed leveling, and there's also large adjustment knobs on each corner of the bed for manual adjustment too. Another nice feature of this printer is it has a metal sprung removable bed, allowing you to easily remove your prints without causing any damage to the surface. The printer also has a built-in filament sensor. This isn't actually part of the extruder, it's a separate sensor which is located at the top by the filament, allowing it to detect when you're about to run out. The printer has a single bar Y-axis with roller wheels on either side, and at the edge of each axis is a nice easy adjustable knob allowing you to quickly set the belt tension so you can keep on top of this as the printer ages. Another nice feature is that it has a large 4.3-inch colour screen. This isn't a touchscreen on this model, and it is controlled via a knob located at the bottom of the screen, but it shows you all of the information about the printer's status and also allowing you to do all of the basic configuration and control as well. The printer uses a standard SD card for uploading the prints as well as updating the firmware, and there's a USB-C port there as well for PC connectivity. Just to walk you through the controls that we've got on the printer. Now, this is a 4.3-inch LCD display. It is colour, but it is non-touch. So all of the controls are handled via this little control knob down here, which we can rotate and press. So the top menu option we've got is print. If I press that, that allows us to select what files that I've currently got on the SD card that I've got inserted into the printer. Nice and straightforward. So if we wanted to print one of these, we would simply select it, press the button, and the print would begin. If we then go over to prepare, under this menu you have things like the ability to move the axis, disable the stepping motors, auto home, set the Z offset. This is something you're going to want to do when you set the printer up, and they do talk about this in the Creality setup video. You've then got the option to preheat PLA, preheat ABS for your filament loading and unloading. You've got cool down option, language selection, and that's everything in this menu here. If we then go under control, and here we have things like options that we can set within the printer. So you've got temperature, so you can set things like the nozzle temperature, bed temperature, so you can manually set the options for that, as well as manually adjust the options for the preheat settings. So preheat PLA settings, for instance, we can go into that and set what we want the temperatures to be, or we could then do the same for ABS. We've then got motion options. Again, we can set the max speed, max acceleration, max corner, steps per minute, all of those things. We've got store configuration, read configuration. You can set the printer to also move into laser engraving mode. I don't have that option on this printer. I don't have the head for that, but you can get it. And then you've got reset configuration, info, which shows things like the firmware version, the bed size, etc. You then have the level option, which will then begin the auto level process. I'm not going to press that now, but that will start the auto level on the print bed as well. Down here, we've then got things like the bed temperature, the extruder temperature, the fan situation, as well as other options down here telling us the position of what the head is doing, as well as the live Z adjustment there too. So it's time to get the printer up and running and do some testing. Now, I did some initial test prints on a benchy and a couple of other TPU parts as well, and we'll take a closer look at these a little bit later on in the video. However, the overall goal was to put it through its paces, and once this has finished, I will share with you some of the prints and how they came out. It's been a little while since I made the first part of that video, and since then I've had a lot more time to be able to do more printing, more testing, and be able to put this printer through its paces and share with you my thoughts. Now, initially I tested all the printing on the slicer that Creality provide, which is their own in-house slicer. I have to say though, my results from that wasn't particularly great. I tried it in both PETG and PLA, as well as the flexible filaments, and the overall results weren't as good as I've seen on other slicers. I then moved over to testing it in Cura, and whilst Cura did provide a lot better results, there is an issue that the current version of Cura doesn't have a specific profile for the S1, but you can download one of them from Facebook on the dedicated S1 page. I then did some testing with Prusa Slicer, because Prusa Slicer's latest version now adds support for that printer as well, and the prints of that are still sitting on the bed, and we'll take a look at them in a minute. Now, the first prints I want to show you were all done on the Creality Slicer. We have a print in PETG as well as some TPU prints here as well. Now, looking at the boat in PETG, the traditional test, you can see overall it's come out okay, but there are some imperfections to be had. I'd ignored the stringing because, to be honest, that's probably my filament. It's not the newest. However, there is some bobbling around the sides here. There's some bobbling in there, and there are some marks on the sides here too. You can see the writing underneath isn't particularly easy to read. This is printed at 0.20, and whilst the print isn't terrible, it isn't as clean as I've seen from some other printers or slicers. Moving over to the TPU prints, and here things are as rough, if not a little worse. You can see down here there's some marks there. We've got some zits on the outside or bobbling. We've got marks all the way around. You've got more zits on the outside. I did do some changes on the settings with regards to the retraction, but it didn't really improve things on this TPU. Again, it's the same situation on these two brackets here. Again, you can see the zits all the way around. You can see them all the way through there and all the way through there. Now, this was all done on that Creality slicer. So the next thing I did was move over to Cura and basically do the same things on that in TPU, as well as a couple of other brackets as well. Now, this is that same bracket done on Cura as was done on the Creality slicer, and you can see that the output is very, very different. There are basically no zits, no bobbles on this one. It's clean. The overall print quality is good, and it's much better overall compared to what we had on the Creality slicer. So it just shows that you can get improvement simply by changing the slicer alone. Then moving over to these, here's a couple more brackets that I printed. One of them I've removed support already. This one I haven't. I'm just going to actually do that live on camera just to show you how easy it was to actually remove the supports. It really did come out very, very well indeed. That come out as one block, and you can see the print quality in there is good. The outside print quality is decent. There's no real bobbles or zits. It is very, very clean, and I'll be honest, it's almost as clean as the prints that I've had off my Prusa. The final ones I want to show you are these here. Now, these have literally just come off the bed. That broke free just now, and that is still stuck to the base. If we give them a tug, there we go. We can see that that's come off. Now, things here aren't perfect. This was all printed with the Prusa slicer. You can see that we did have some first layer issues here under the bottom. You can see that there are a few zits around the side on that edge there, but that is about it on that print. Overall, the quality of this, and this is PLA, is decent. There's no issues there at all. If we do a size test just to see how the cube has actually come out, it should be 20 mil. There we go, looking good. 20.15, 20.009, and then if we check the big one, slightly under 1998, very, very close. I'm probably squishing in a little bit more on the bottom layer than I should be, but overall the dimensions are very, very good. Then if we move over to looking at the boat, we can see this is actually looking fairly good. Couple of little areas where things could be better with a little bit of tuning, but overall I have to say the quality of this print is much better than the print we've had on the original slicer. You can see that the overhangs look good. That all looks absolutely fine. And overall, I think it's done a great job considering all I've actually done between these two really is change slicer. Yes, they are slightly different filaments, but overall, that's the biggest difference between those two. So there are gains to be had on this printer simply by changing the slicer. My preferred slicer has always been Prusa slicer, although I did find Cura fairly straightforward and easy to use. In fact, it is clear that the Creality slicer is just a copy version of the Cura slicer, but there's no question that Cura did do a better job. If you look at the kind of outputs that you can get from this printer when using a good slicer, there is no reason this printer can't do a very good job of delivering PLA prints as well as things in TPU. Okay, so it's time for me to share with you my thoughts on the Ender 3 S1 from Creality. Before I do that though, I just want to be clear again. They did send me this printer for free. However, they have not had any input into this video's content, and as always, my thoughts are entirely my own. So having spent some time with this printer, I have to say, overall, I'm very impressed at what you're getting here for the money. Its retail price is $399, but I've seen it as low as $340. And for that, you're getting a dual gear direct drive printer, which allows you to print PLA, PETG, and flexible filaments like TPU. It has a removable spring bed, auto bed leveling, dual Z-axis, it has a filament sensor and a large color screen as well. Its results are actually fairly decent once you get it dialed in, and it's easy to set up with its mostly assembled configuration out the box. There really is a hell of a lot to like here, and if you're someone trying to get into 3D printing with filament style printers for the first time, or you want to upgrade an older Ender, I have to say there is a lot to like. Whilst there is a lot good here, there are some things I do think could be improved, and there are some things you need to be aware of. As I mentioned already, the slicer is one of them. The Creality slicer isn't particularly great, and I strongly advise you move over to Cura or over to the Prusa slicer. The only downside to moving over to Cura is that it doesn't actually have a profile for this printer already, although you can get one from the Facebook page. But if you move over to the latest Prusa slicer, there is a profile built in and it is ready to go. And in my tests, you can get some really good results with that straight out the door. There are a few other little niggles I want to mention with the hardware as well. Whilst the overall build quality feels good, the Y-axis does have more movement in it than I would like. I have done the belt tensioning on this, but you can actually move the Y-axis a little bit on the rollers, and I do think this is an area that could be improved. It is a single Y-axis on this, and this printer could probably be upgraded to a nice dual Y-axis, which would offer more stability. Also, you do need to make sure that you do have plenty of space around this printer whilst using it, because that large ribbon cable does stick out quite a bit around the side. Other than that, I do think it is a very good printer for the price overall, and and especially good if you're looking to print things such as flexible filaments. Now, if you're interested in getting this printer, there is a link to it in the description to the Creality store. Here it is available to purchase. As I've said, it has a recommended retail price of $399, but I am seeing it listed at $339 at the moment. Overall, I have to say, not a lot here not to like. I think it's a good printer. I'm going to be doing a lot more testing, and I'm going to follow up this video with another one in the next couple of months and share with you my longer term thoughts having spent more time with it. Now, if you found this video interesting, please do let me know in the comment section. If you have any questions, please do put them there. If you'd like to support us to be able to keep making content like this, there is a link to my Patreon as well as Buy Me a Coffee. I want to say a massive thank you to all of my patrons. I would not be able to keep making content on this channel without their support, and whilst Creality did send me this printer for this video, most of the things we talk about on this channel we have bought and paid for, and I would not be able to do that without the support of my patrons, so I want to say a massive thank you from me. Also, if you're not a subscriber, please do consider hitting the subscribe button, and if you do like the video, please do hit the thumbs up as well. Anyway, that's it from me. Stay safe, please do let me know what you think, and I will speak to you soon.